The Conjuring, Whispers of the Haunting Past. Prologue, The Dark Inheritance. In the heart of a countryside that time seemed to have forgotten, the Peterson family found themselves on the threshold of an old and imposing farmhouse. Its time-worn facade loomed over them like a sentinel of forgotten memories. The family had come in search of solace and the promise of a fresh start, but little did they know that this house held secrets that the world had long since abandoned. The very air around them was pregnant with mystery, and a spectral breeze rustled through the trees, as if nature herself whispered warnings. This wasn't an ordinary home, it was a relic of a bygone era, carrying with it the weight of its own history, laden with stories and secrets that had aged like fine wine, or more aptly, like a curse. The centuries-old oak trees that stood sentry around the house seemed to have borne witness to it all, their gnarled branches resembling ancient arms reaching out to protect or ensnare. The Peterson family consisted of John, a man who had grown weary of the ceaseless urban rat race, yearning for the tranquility that this remote farmhouse promised. By his side stood Sarah, an artist who painted in dark hues and whose fascination with the macabre was often the source of the family's spirited dinner debates. Her imagination thrived in the company of the morbid and the unknown. Then there was Emma, their teenage daughter, a girl with a spirit as enigmatic as the old house itself. At a glance, she was just a typical teenager, but her soul harbored secrets that were yet to reveal themselves. Little did her parents know that her destiny was intricately intertwined with the house, a connection that would soon turn their lives into a haunting tale of despair and revelation. As they crossed the threshold of the historic farmhouse, the creaking of the floorboards beneath their feet seemed to be the house's silent acknowledgement of their arrival. It was as though the house, with its ancient bones, was awakening from a long slumber, a dark inheritance preparing to unveil itself. The very walls seemed to breathe with a spectral presence, exhaling whispers of the past. This was a place where the past never truly died, where history clung like cobwebs in forgotten corners, and where memories, both beautiful and horrifying, lingered like phantoms. A darkness, a malevolence, had burrowed deep into the foundation of the house, and it would not remain dormant for long. The Peterson family, oblivious to the shadows that stirred in the corners, entered the farmhouse with hopes and dreams, unaware that this dark inheritance would lead them down a treacherous path, one that would unearth the chilling secrets of their own family history and connect them to the malevolent spirit that awaited them in the depths of the old farmhouse. The stage was set, and the whispers of the house would soon turn into bone-chilling screams of the past. Chapter 1: A New Beginning. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and dusky purple as the Peterson family stepped over the threshold of the historic farmhouse. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged wood and the faintest hint of something more ominous. John, his rugged hands carrying the weight of his family's dreams, gazed around the living room, the fading daylight casting long shadows that seemed to dance with a life of their own. Sarah, her eyes alight with a blend of excitement and apprehension, wandered through the rooms, her fingers tracing the ornate patterns on the wallpaper as if seeking a connection to the past. Meanwhile, Emma, their daughter, seemed to sense something deeper, something lurking beneath the surface of their new home. Her eyes, the color of stormy seas, scanned the corners of the rooms as if expecting an unseen visitor. The first night in the farmhouse arrived, shrouded in an eerie stillness. The family gathered in the cozy living room, the fireplace crackling with a warmth that barely dispelled the chill that seemed to seep from the very walls. John, attempting to bury his unease, lit a lamp, casting a flickering light that danced upon the walls like ghostly apparitions. But the peace they sought was not to be found within these ancient walls. As the night deepened, so did the mystery that enveloped them. Whispers, soft as the breath of a sleeping child, wound their way through the house. At first, the family dismissed them as mere products of an overactive imagination, the consequence of tired minds in a new environment. Yet, the whispers persisted, growing louder with each passing night. Emma, with her uncanny intuition, became attuned to them. She would sit by her bedroom window, gazing out into the moonlit night, her eyes reflecting the luminescence as if capturing the secrets of the universe. The whispers crept into her dreams, painting vivid nightmares that left her waking in a cold sweat. Objects, once meticulously placed, now defied gravity, moving without rhyme or reason. Sarah's paintbrushes, arranged neatly on her art desk, would be found scattered across the room by morning, as if an unseen hand had taken delight in their disarray. John's skepticism began to waver, replaced by a gnawing dread that settled in the pit of his stomach. Emma's connection to the malevolent spirit grew stronger with each passing day. She could feel its presence, a chilling touch on the back of her neck, a spectral breath against her skin. It whispered to her, its voice a cacophony of anguished murmurs and bitter resentment. In the dead of night, it would call out her name, a haunting melody that sent shivers down her spine. The once promised peace of their new beginning had transformed into a nightmare. The house, it seemed, was alive with a malevolence that defied explanation. The Petersons, unknowingly ensnared in its web, were about to descend further into the depths of the supernatural, their lives intertwined with the unseen forces that lurked within the farmhouse's ancient walls. The stage was set, and the curtains of uncertainty were about to rise on a haunting tale that would test the very fabric of their family bonds. Chapter 2: Unearthly Whispers. As the days turned to weeks, the weight of the farmhouse's eerie presence bore down on Emma like an unseen hand pressing on her chest. Night after night, her dreams became a battleground, a realm where the malevolent spirit sought to entwine its dark tendrils with her very soul. In her sleep, she would find herself standing in the shadowy corridors of the old house. The walls whispered secrets that only she could decipher. Her sleep was no respite. Instead, it became an uncharted territory where her waking life blended with the surreal. She woke each morning with the whispers echoing in her ears, their enigmatic messages a puzzle she was compelled to solve. She tried to confide in her parents, but they brushed it off as the vivid imagination of a teenager, unaware of the profound changes taking place within their daughter. The nightly visits to the old house's corridors became routine, and Emma would follow the voice, her feet moving of their own accord. The spirit seemed to call to her, a force she couldn't resist. The corridors were shrouded in darkness, the ancient wallpaper peeling to reveal faded patterns that resembled the marks of forgotten rituals. In the waking hours, the whispers continued to haunt her. She would be in the middle of a conversation with her family, and suddenly, her gaze would fixate on a shadowed corner, as if listening to a conversation only she could hear. John, ever the practical one, began to notice the strain on his daughter. Her laughter became scarce, her once bright eyes now harbored a distant, haunted look. Sarah, still enchanted by the idea of a mysterious house, was initially reluctant to acknowledge the changes in her daughter. But as the days passed, she couldn't ignore the growing sense of unease that seemed to seep into every corner of their lives. The Peterson family was unknowingly fracturing under the weight of the malevolent presence. Emma, burdened by the unearthly whispers that seemed to pull her deeper into the abyss, began to withdraw from her family. Her room became her sanctuary, and even there, the darkness seemed to follow her. A chasm was forming, both within Emma and between the members of the family. John and Sarah, once united in their quest for a fresh start, now found themselves on opposite sides of an unseen battlefield. The malevolent spirit had cast its shadow upon them, and it was only a matter of time before the family would be forced to confront the darkness that had infiltrated their lives. The malevolent spirit's grip on Emma tightened with each passing day, its whispers becoming an inescapable presence. The stage was set for a chilling revelation, one that would test the bonds of family, faith, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of the supernatural. Chapter 3: The Malevolent Manifestation. Emma's bedroom, once a sanctuary from the creeping unease of the rest of the farmhouse, had now become the epicenter of supernatural phenomena. As night descended like a heavy shroud, her room seemed to undergo a sinister transformation. The whispering had grown louder, reverberating off the walls with an urgency that sent chills down Emma's spine. She lay in her bed, eyes wide open, her gaze fixed on the shadows that seemed to coalesce in the corners of the room. The air grew icy, and her breath came out in misty puffs. And then it happened, a manifestation of the malevolent spirit. At first, it was a mere shadow, a dark silhouette against the dimly lit room. But as Emma watched in horror, it gained substance, like a specter stepping out from the world of dreams into the realm of the living. The figure that emerged was ethereal, its form translucent, and yet it exuded an undeniable malevolence. It was as if the very essence of the farmhouse had taken shape, a malevolent entity born of forgotten rituals and centuries of despair. It reached out to Emma with a skeletal hand, the fingers elongated and bony, like the talons of some ancient bird of prey. Fear gripped the Peterson family as they stood at the threshold of Emma's room, their hearts pounding in their chests. John, a man of practicality, now faced the undeniable truth: the malevolent spirit had taken a tangible form, and it sought to claim their daughter. Sarah, her fascination with the macabre now replaced by sheer terror, clutched Emma's hand, her knuckles white with fear. The entity's eyes, two dark voids filled with malice, fixed on them. It spoke not in words but in the anguished wails of the forgotten, the voices of the tormented souls that had come before. The room seemed to twist and warp as the malevolent spirit extended its grasp, its touch an icy vice. Emma was paralyzed with terror, unable to tear her gaze away from the entity's hollow eyes. It whispered ancient secrets into her ears, words that resonated with the pain of the past and the darkness of forgotten sins. Outside, the wind howled, as if in sympathy with the family's plight, the very house seeming to weep for their suffering. The malevolent manifestation had made its presence known, and it was a force that defied rational explanation. The Petersons, caught in a nightmarish confrontation, realized that their family was now a pawn in a sinister game that spanned generations. The malevolent spirit sought to maintain its grip on Emma, and it would take everything they had to fight back against the relentless entity that had emerged from the shadows. The malevolent manifestation was just the beginning, and the battle between the living and the dead had now truly begun. Chapter 4: Investigating the Past. After the nightmarish confrontation with the malevolent manifestation in Emma's room, the Petersons found themselves teetering on the precipice of an abyss. The malevolent spirit had made its sinister presence known, but the family was not about to be cowed into submission. Sarah, whose fascination with the macabre had now turned into a burning determination to protect her family, decided to delve into the history of the farmhouse. She had always been meticulous in her research, and this time was no different. She was determined to uncover the truth, no matter how chilling it might be. In the dimly lit living room, with dusty books and ancient manuscripts spread out before her, Sarah's artistic soul became a detective's heart, fueled by a relentless curiosity. She discovered tales of death and rituals that had occurred within the very walls of their farmhouse. These were stories that had been deliberately erased from the world's memory, secrets that had been buried in the darkness of time. Sarah's findings were nothing short of disturbing. The farmhouse had a history steeped in tragedy. It had been the site of unexplained deaths, murders shrouded in mystery, and bizarre rituals conducted by long-forgotten inhabitants. The more she read, the more she realized that the malevolent spirit that tormented her family was inexorably connected to this grim history. The house had been a sanctuary for the macabre, a stage for the unexplained, and a canvas for the darkest of human desires. The walls had witnessed unspeakable acts, and the malevolent spirit had festered within them, drawing its strength from the pain and despair of the past. As Sarah uncovered these stories, a shroud of dread settled over the family. The darkness of their inheritance had become undeniable. They were not just victims of circumstance, they were linked to the malevolent spirit by blood, by history, by an unbreakable bond that transcended time and space. The old farmhouse, once a symbol of hope and renewal, had become a malevolent entity's playground, a nexus of the supernatural, and a house of horrors that sought to claim their very souls. Sarah's research had unraveled the truth, but the darkness of their family's past now cast an even longer shadow over their lives. The Petersons stood at a crossroads, their lives forever altered by the chilling secrets that had been unearthed. The battle against the malevolent spirit had taken a new turn, and they were about to confront the consequences of their family's dark history. The stage was set for a showdown between the living and the dead, and the Petersons were about to delve even deeper into the abyss. Chapter 5: Seeking Guidance. The darkness that had enveloped the Petersons' lives had reached a point of no return. Emma's connection to the malevolent spirit continued to worsen, and it was clear that the family could no longer fight this battle alone. Desperation led them to a decision that would alter the course of their lives. In the dead of night, with the moon hanging low and the air heavy with a sense of foreboding, John and Sarah sat at the kitchen table, the dim light of a single candle casting long shadows across their faces. Their hands trembled as they clutched a worn-out phone book, the pages yellowed with age. They found the listing they sought, the names Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators who had faced the supernatural countless times. It was a name whispered in hushed tones among those who had encountered the unexplained, a beacon of hope in a world of shadows. With trembling fingers, John dialed the number, and as the ringing tone echoed in the stillness of the night, he felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. The voice on the other end of the line was steady, reassuring, as Ed Warren himself answered their call for help. The Warrens arrived at the farmhouse, their presence alone sending shivers down the spines of the Petersons. The couple, who had encountered malevolent spirits and ancient evils, sensed the malevolence that had taken root within the old house. Lorraine's eyes, a deep well of understanding, met Emma's with an unspoken connection. She saw the fear and the pain that the young girl had endured, the weight of a burden that no teenager should ever bear. Ed, a man whose years of experience had left him with a rugged exterior, couldn't hide the sense of unease that hung in the air. Together, they walked through the old farmhouse, their footsteps echoing like a death knell in the quietude of the night. The malevolent presence seemed to recoil in their presence, as if it recognized a power greater than its own. The Warrens were no strangers to the supernatural, and their very existence was a testament to the inexplicable. In hushed tones, they spoke to the Petersons, offering both solace and a grim truth. The malevolent spirit that had haunted their family was a force that could not be underestimated. It was an entity born of centuries of darkness, and it sought to claim Emma as its own. The Warrens' arrival marked a turning point in the battle against the malevolent spirit. With their guidance and expertise, the Petersons were about to confront an ancient evil that had lain dormant for too long. The stage was set for a night of reckoning, where the living and the dead would engage in a relentless struggle for the soul of a young girl, and the house's long-buried secrets would be unveiled in all their chilling glory. Chapter 6: A Looming Threat. As the Warrens began their investigation, the ancient farmhouse seemed to hold its breath, awaiting the revelation of its darkest secrets. Ed and Lorraine were no strangers to the supernatural, having faced horrors that would drive ordinary souls to the brink of madness. Still, the malevolent spirit lurking within the house was a formidable adversary, and the battle had only just begun. The investigation took them deep into the grim history of the farmhouse. Ed pored over old records, his fingers tracing the faded ink of long-forgotten documents. He uncovered tales of madness and despair, of residents driven to the brink of insanity by an unseen malevolence. It was a history fraught with unspeakable horrors that had festered within the very walls of the house. Lorraine, with her uncanny psychic abilities, felt the malevolent presence like a heavy cloud that hung over the Petersons' lives. She moved through the house, her senses attuned to the supernatural, her every step a cautious dance with the unknown. The whispers of the past echoed in her mind, a cacophony of anguish and despair that threatened to overwhelm her. The malevolent spirit, aware of the threat posed by the Warrens, fought back with a relentless fury. It intensified its torment of Emma, its whispers now a constant barrage of malevolent voices that echoed in her mind. The entity seemed determined to claim her, to draw her further into the abyss of its influence. The farmhouse's dark secrets, once concealed by time and silence, now seemed intent on claiming the young girl. Emma's connection to the malevolent spirit had grown stronger, and the battle for her soul had become a looming threat. The family, along with the Warrens, stood at the precipice of a nightmarish confrontation, where the line between the living and the dead blurred, and the malevolent entity's grip on their lives tightened. The stage was set for a battle of wills, a clash between the human and the supernatural, and the looming threat of the malevolent spirit cast a shadow over the very foundations of the old farmhouse. The Petersons, united by a love that transcended the darkness, were about to confront an ancient evil that had lain in wait for far too long. Chapter 7: The Haunting Escalates. The battle between the living and the dead had reached a tipping point, and the malevolent spirit that had taken hold of the old farmhouse was no longer content with mere whispers and apparitions. It sought to escalate the terror, to leave a lasting mark on the Peterson family. As the days turned into weeks, the malevolent spirit's actions grew bolder, and the haunting escalated. It no longer confined itself to the shadows, it manifested in the corporeal world. The malevolent entity became a physical threat, its presence an ever-present specter of violence. The Petersons awoke one morning to find their once peaceful home in chaos. Furniture had been overturned, windows shattered, and the walls were marred with deep gouges. It was as if a malevolent force had raged through the house, leaving destruction in its wake. The family members bore the brunt of the malevolent spirit's fury. John, who had always been the pillar of strength, was now the recipient of unseen blows that left him bruised and battered. Sarah, the artist who had once painted in shades of the macabre, now found herself the target of the entity's aggression. Her paintings, once a source of fascination, were now defiled with grotesque imagery that seemed to have sprung from the depths of hell. Emma, the young girl with the enigmatic connection to the malevolent spirit, bore the worst of the physical violence. Her once joyful spirit had withered in the face of relentless torment. She bore scratches and bruises that seemed to appear out of thin air, a testament to the malevolent entity's power. The battle between the living and the dead had intensified, the lines between the corporeal and the supernatural blurred. The malevolent entity had grown more powerful, feeding on the fear and despair of the Peterson family. It seemed determined to break their spirits, to claim them one by one. The old farmhouse, with its peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards, had become a battleground, a place where the living and the dead clashed with a ferocity that defied rational explanation. The malevolent spirit's actions had left the family battered, but it had also ignited a fire within them, a determination to fight back, to protect their own, and to confront the ancient evil that had taken root in their lives. As the haunting escalated, the Petersons realized that the malevolent entity would stop at nothing to claim their souls. The stage was set for a night of reckoning, where the living would stand against the dead in a battle for their very survival. The malevolent spirit had revealed its true nature, and the Petersons were about to discover the depths of their own resilience in the face of unspeakable horror. Chapter 8: Confrontation. With the malevolent spirit's escalating aggression, the Petersons and the Warrens had no choice but to face the entity head-on. The Warrens, with their years of experience in battling the supernatural, devised a plan to confront the malevolent spirit that had taken hold of the old farmhouse. A sense of grim determination settled over the family as they gathered in the living room, their eyes reflecting the flickering candlelight. The Warrens explained the plan, a spiritual warfare that would test the boundaries of the living and the dead. It was a night of reckoning, where the malevolent spirit would be confronted in a battle for Emma's very soul. The house itself seemed to shudder with anticipation, as if aware of the impending confrontation. The wind outside howled with an eerie ferocity, as if heralding the battle that was about to unfold. In the darkness, the family and the investigators formed a circle, each one holding an object of personal significance, a family heirloom, a cherished photo, a symbol of hope. These objects, imbued with the power of love and determination, would serve as their weapons in the spiritual warfare that awaited them. The Warrens began to chant, their voices rising in a haunting melody that seemed to resonate with the very foundations of the old farmhouse. Their incantations invoked a powerful energy, a light that pushed back the malevolent darkness that sought to envelop them. The malevolent spirit fought back with a fury, its presence a palpable force that threatened to snuff out their feeble light. Objects flew through the air, furniture toppled, and the very walls of the house seemed to close in on them. It was a battle of wills, a relentless struggle between the living and the dead. Emma, the young girl who had borne the brunt of the malevolent spirit's torment, now became a beacon of hope. Her connection to the entity had grown stronger, and it was this connection that would be used to confront the ancient evil. As the battle raged on, Emma's eyes became a swirling vortex of power, a conduit through which the malevolent spirit's grip on her could be severed. The tension in the room was palpable, the air thick with anticipation. It was a night of spiritual warfare, a confrontation with an entity that had haunted their lives. The malevolent spirit, realizing that it was losing its grip, lashed out with a final, desperate fury. But the love and determination of the family, combined with the expertise of the Warrens, proved stronger. With a blinding flash of light, the malevolent spirit was banished, its anguished cries echoing in the darkness as it retreated into the depths of the old farmhouse. The battle had been won, but the scars of their ordeal would forever mark their souls. Emma was finally free from the entity's clutches, her spirit no longer bound by the malevolent presence. The old farmhouse, with its peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards, stood silent, its secrets at rest. The confrontation had come at a great cost, but it had also revealed the resilience of the human spirit in the face of the supernatural. The Petersons and the Warrens had faced the malevolent spirit head-on, and they had emerged victorious. The stage was set for a new beginning, where the family could finally find the peace they had sought in the old farmhouse. Chapter 9, A Glimmer of Hope. The climactic showdown had left the malevolent spirit's grasp on Emma weakening, but it came at a heavy cost. The battle had pushed the Peterson family and the Warrens to the brink of despair. The old farmhouse, with its haunted history, had been the stage for a relentless struggle between the living and the dead. Emma, no longer tormented by the malevolent entity, was a flickering ember of hope in the aftermath of the battle. Her eyes, once haunted, now held a glimmer of the innocence that had been stolen from her. She was free, but the scars of her ordeal ran deep, etched into her very soul. The family, exhausted and battered, came to a somber realization. The malevolent spirit's presence had been a reflection of their own dark past, a history steeped in tragedy and despair. It was a legacy they could no longer deny, a truth that had lain buried for far too long. The Petersons and the Warrens gathered in the living room, the air heavy with the weight of their shared history. The ancient farmhouse, now a silent witness to their revelation, seemed to await their acknowledgement of the past. As the truth unfurled, the darkness that had held them in its grip began to recede. The malevolent spirit had been a manifestation of their own unresolved pain, a force that had drawn its strength from their denial of their family's grim history. John, Sarah, and Emma confronted the skeletons in their family's closet, acknowledging the tragedies and secrets that had haunted them for generations. It was a painful process, a journey through the depths of their own despair, but it was also a path toward healing. With each confession and admission, the old farmhouse seemed to sigh with relief, as if the weight of their family's dark past had finally been lifted. The malevolent spirit, which had once held them in its thrall, was banished not by an external force, but by their own courage to face the truth. The glimmer of hope that had been kindled in Emma's eyes now spread to the rest of the family. They had survived the ordeal, and in doing so, they had confronted their own demons. The old farmhouse, with its peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards, seemed to embrace them in the aftermath of their revelation. The stage was set for a new beginning, where the Petersons could finally find the peace and renewal they had sought in the historic farmhouse. The shadows of the past still clung to the corners, but the family had faced the darkness and emerged with a newfound strength to overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. In their journey through the macabre and the supernatural, they had discovered that the most formidable adversary was not an external force, but the darkness within. The glimmer of hope, once a faint ember in the midst of despair, had grown into a beacon of resilience, illuminating their path toward healing and renewal. Chapter 10: Redemption. With the malevolent spirit's power waning, the Petersons stood on the precipice of a new beginning, their lives forever changed by the harrowing ordeal they had endured. As the ancient farmhouse settled into an uneasy silence, the consequences of their family's actions came into stark relief. The malevolent spirit, a force born of despair and darkness, had been a reflection of their own unresolved pain and guilt. It had drawn its strength from their denial of their family's grim history, a legacy steeped in tragedy and secrets buried in the depths of time. In the quiet aftermath of the confrontation, the family members found themselves grappling with the realization that redemption could only be found in confronting the truth. It was a painful process, one that required them to acknowledge the tragedies and secrets that had haunted them for generations. John, who had once been the pragmatic patriarch, now faced the guilt of choices he had made in his past, choices that had unwittingly set the stage for the malevolent spirit's manifestation. He came to terms with the consequences of his actions and the pain he had caused his family. Sarah, the artist who had been drawn to the macabre, confronted the shadows of her own past, acknowledging the darkness that had haunted her art. She realized that the malevolent spirit had been a mirror to her own fascination with the supernatural, a fascination that had unwittingly invited the entity into their lives. Emma, the young girl who had borne the brunt of the malevolent entity's torment, found her own strength in the process of redemption. She had been freed from the entity's clutches, but the scars of their harrowing ordeal would forever mark her soul. As the family members shared their confessions and admissions, the old farmhouse seemed to exhale a sigh of relief. The shadows that had clung to the corners of the house receded, as if the weight of their family's dark past had finally been lifted. Redemption, they realized, was a journey through the depths of their own despair. The malevolent spirit, which had once held them in its thrall, was banished not by an external force, but by their own courage to face the truth. The newfound strength that emerged from their confrontation with the past would guide them in the days and years to come. The old farmhouse, with its peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards, stood as a silent witness to their transformation. In the end, the Petersons had not only confronted a malevolent spirit but also the darkness within themselves. Their journey through the macabre and the supernatural had led to a place of healing and renewal. The scars of their harrowing ordeal would always remain, but they had found redemption in the process. As they looked to the future, the family members knew that the old farmhouse would forever bear the marks of their struggle. It was a place where the living and the dead had clashed, where the shadows of the past had been exposed, and where the light of redemption had emerged from the darkness. Epilogue: Whispers in the Wind. With the malevolent spirit finally vanquished, the old farmhouse stood silent, a relic of the past that had held its secrets for centuries. The walls, once witnesses to unspeakable horrors, had become a canvas for the Petersons and the Warrens, a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of the supernatural. The family, forever changed by their encounter with the malevolent spirit, departed from the farmhouse with a sense of renewal. They had confronted the darkness within themselves and had emerged with a newfound understanding of the power of redemption. The scars of their harrowing ordeal would always remain, but they had found a glimmer of hope in the face of despair. As the Petersons and the Warrens left the old farmhouse behind, they carried with them the weight of their shared history, a legacy steeped in tragedy and secrets that had been laid to rest. The wind, which had whispered secrets and foreboding during their time in the countryside, now carried a different message. The whispers in the wind were no longer filled with malevolence. Instead, they seemed to echo the stories of the past, the tales of forgotten souls and the pain that had haunted the old farmhouse. It was as if the wind itself mourned the tragedies that had occurred within those walls. The farmhouse, with its peeling wallpaper and creaking floorboards, stood as a silent sentinel, its secrets finally at rest. The battle between the living and the dead had come to an end, and the darkness that had once held sway had receded. Yet, the wind still carried whispers, reminders of the darkness that dwelled in the farmhouse's history. It was a place where the macabre and the supernatural had clashed with the resilience of the human spirit. The stories of the Petersons and the Warrens would live on, a testament to the enduring power of redemption in the face of the unknown. As they left the countryside behind, the family and the investigators knew that they had faced an ancient evil and emerged from the shadows with a newfound strength. The old farmhouse would forever bear the marks of their struggle, a place where the living and the dead had collided, where the past had been exposed, and where the whispers in the wind served as a reminder of the darkness that could still lurk in the most unexpected of places. The end. Hello, fellow fiction fans. I'm thrilled you're enjoying Muted Gamer Fiction. Your support means the world to me. If you're loving our stories, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement fuels our storytelling. I'd love to hear from you. Share fanfic ideas or just say hi in the comments. Let's build this community together. Thanks for being part of Muted Gamer Fiction. Keep listening, and your support keeps the stories coming. Can't wait to see your ideas. Happy listening, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next chapter.